I just wanted to, give a little bit more about what I do presently in terms of my litigation practice as it relates to today's topic. A big part of my practice does deal with trucking accidents. And when I say trucking accidents, we know what a truck is, but it is a bit broader than that. It would basically include what I would call commercial vehicles. That could be large passenger buses. It could also be vehicles such as limousines. So in terms of the presentation today, we are going to be talking about the impact of high-profile trucking accidents on your career. One of the things that I want to start out with is trying to give you some perspective from a past well-publicized accident that you may have seen in the media or perhaps not. And so we're going to be talking about an accident involving a comedian by the name of Tracy Morgan. He was best known for his role in Saturday Night Live. And when we talk about his accident, I'm going to circle back at the end of it to really understanding the issues and challenges when there are these large accidents involving whether it be a truck, a limousine, or other commercial vehicle. Now, with Mr. Morgan's accident, he was riding in a large limousine van. And his vehicle was involved in a large accident with a 18-wheel tractor trailer that was driven for Walmart. Tracy Morgan was significantly injured, and another passenger in the limousine he was in actually died in the accident. Now, due to the significant injuries involved and the fact that Tracy Morgan was a well-known celebrity, there was a lot of media attention, as you can probably appreciate. The media attention was due in large part because of Walmart being such a large retailer, and it was one of their trucks and truck drivers involved in the accident. So the issues in the investigation for this accident are similar to issues in investigation that I encounter on a regular basis in other significant types of trucking accidents. In Tracy Morgan's accident, let me just clue you into some of the key players. We've already talked about Tracy Morgan. He was in the limousine. James McNair was the passenger in the limousine with Tracy, who unfortunately died in the accident. A gentleman by the name of Kevin Roper, he was the actual Walmart driver. Now, this is just a basic visual of the accident. You will see the truck, and you will also see the black, large limousine. So those were the vehicles involved. It is this truck from behind that was the Walmart vehicle and impacted the rear of the limousine. Now, this accident occurred about 1 a.m. on a New Jersey interstate. And the National Transportation Safety Board, who would be one of the agencies that would investigate an accident such as this, determined, based upon their investigation, that the Walmart driver had not slept in more than 24 hours. Now, initially, the Walmart driver disputed this, but later admitted it. After a lot of investigation, the National Transportation Safety Board reached their conclusion that the driver fell asleep, which caused the accident. And they were able to determine this, that he was actually up for that many hours because of his social media posts. So again, this is part of the investigation in an accident such as this involving commercial vehicles. Drivers have limited hours that they're supposed to drive, and they're supposed to have sufficient sleep. And so they were able to determine, based upon, in large part, these social media posts, that the driver was up for more than 24 hours and that fatigue was a cause of this accident. Now, just to give you a quick backdrop on what happened after the accident in terms of lawsuits, Tracy Morgan sued Walmart for negligence on the part of their driver and sued their driver. Mr. McNair's family also sued Walmart. And we know that both cases settled. We don't know how much, but we know that it was a resolution and the case never went to trial. Now, there is a criminal case that was filed against the driver for Walmart, Mr. Roper, and I believe that is still pending. I tried to get an update before this thing, but I believe that is still pending. So again, we reflect back on the Tracy Morgan accident, and I told you that they were trying to investigate it, and one of the big pieces they used of the puzzle in putting it all together was the social media information. And I just want to kind of give you some insight on some other, what I would consider high-profile accidents that you may or may not have heard of. In 2014, there was a well-publicized bus accident. There was some high school students in California, and it caused a terrible accident where their bus was overtaken by fire, and 10 of the high school students died in that accident. And their bus collided with a FedEx truck, and it was basically a head-on accident. The investigation took at least a year, and ultimately the investigation determined that the FedEx truck was solely to blame for the accident. There was another more recent accident this year where there was a church bus in Texas that killed 13 senior citizens, and it was involved in a collision with a pickup truck. Now, that accident, due to the recent date of it, is still under investigation, but current indications are that the driver of the pickup was intoxicated and was actually texting at the time of the accident. And so, obviously, those are big things right now that are being suspected as the cause, but the investigation is ongoing. The last accident I want to talk to you about, it was from 2013, and there were 5 members of a bachelorette party that were killed when their limousine caught on fire in San Francisco. Now, it was a one-vehicle accident, and so it was a puzzling accident to determine why the limousine caught on fire. Was it something the driver hit? Was it something wrong mechanically with the vehicle? Or was it something inside the vehicle that ignited the flames? Well, ultimately, the investigation revealed that there had been a catastrophic failure on the part of the limousine's rear suspension system, which allowed friction to occur and ultimately engulfed the limousine in flames. So, unfortunately, when you have these high-profile accidents, they are tragic. People lose their life or are significantly injured, and so the investigations are very, very important. So when you have an accident like this, how does somebody go about determining what really happened to cause the accident? Whether that be police or myself as an attorney hired for one of the parties to help investigate. So first of all, it requires a prompt and quick or immediate response to the accident, as well as a careful analysis of both the investigation and the reconstruction. And then with that, you also assess the applicable laws that would apply in the particular venue. And when we're dealing with commercial vehicles, there are different laws that apply to them under the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations. As I mentioned before, commercial drivers are limited in the number of hours they can drive, and that would be one of the things under the regulations. So when we're talking about investigation, what do I really mean? Well, it's kind of like putting a puzzle together or solving a mystery. You have to gather a lot of information and then sort through it to try to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And so those pieces of the puzzle may be witness statements, people that saw the accident or saw parts of it, also nearby camera footage. A lot of stores, businesses these days, and even homes have surveillance cameras as part of their security system. And so a lot of times they will catch or capture on this footage sometimes the entire accident or sometimes just some relevant pieces of it. And again, quick response is needed because a lot of times these stores and homeowners, record over their surveillance footage. So it's important to get out there and gather witness statements and footage immediately. The other thing would be cell phone records. So was one of the drivers on the phone? Were they texting? That can also always play a key role in determining whether they might have been distracted. As I mentioned in the Tracy Morgan case, social media searches. In the Tracy Morgan case, the social media information was one of the key points that led the officers to determine that Kevin Roper was up for more than 24 hours and that fatigue caused the accident. But social media can say other things. They can. Sometimes people will go on social media after an accident and will talk about it. whether it be witnesses or one of the parties involved. And sometimes that can be important information. It may also show maybe a few hours before the accident somebody was out drinking or doing something that may lead to them being impaired on some level. The next thing here I want to mention is black box information. What I mean by that is computer modules that are in vehicles. Most newer vehicles these days have what we call black box or computer modules that record data about the car's events. So with commercial vehicles in particular, these large trucks or buses or limousines, they generally will have this computer data we call black box. And it will tell you key information. It will generally tell you the vehicle speed, when the brakes were activated, and the history of how long this vehicle had been running. So a lot of the data from this is very key part of the investigation to get that data and preserve it. It's important, this computer information, if you don't get it immediately and the vehicle is driven again, it can override the computer data. So again, it's one of those urgent types of things. You want to secure all the vehicles, put them basically on lockdown until you're able to retrieve this data. One of the other things that you would be doing as part of the investigation is gathering records about the drivers. If it's a commercial driver, records of their hours of service that I mentioned before. How long have they been driving? Where did they come from? Where are they going? What are they hauling? All of those are pieces of the puzzle in doing the investigation. The other would be mechanical records. Did something wrong with the brake system? Or like I mentioned in the Bachelorette Fire limousine accident, was there some sort of catastrophic failure of one of the mechanical parts that caused or even contributed to the accident? So those are some of the pieces of the puzzle. There's a lot more, but for purposes of this presentation, I think those are some of the key things I wanted to mention to you. And then after you get all the pieces to the puzzle, then you put them together, and that's really called the reconstruction. And usually a reconstruction in a high-profile accident case like this will involve hiring experts, expert engineers, people to go out to the scene, assess the physical evidence, and again, quickly, because skid marks, debris, things from an accident can disappear very quickly, just as part of a roadway, people driving on the roadway. So putting this physical evidence with all the other investigation together, inspecting the vehicles and the damage done to determine the forces involved in the accident, assessing weather or other roadway conditions such as construction or things that may have caused or contributed to the accident. As I mentioned, hiring various engineers, whether it be an accident reconstructionist engineer or maybe a trucking expert to be able to say what truck drivers should or should not do in this situation. And they will work usually as a team to help put the pieces of the puzzle together. A lot of times these experts will use animation. In a previous slide, I showed you what was really an animation drawing of part of the accident involving Tracy Morgan and the Walmart driver. Animations can be very elaborate and can be very key in trying to put all these pieces together in a visual presentation to help everybody understand what really happened. I mentioned laser scanner. The way they can really make these animations so real is the technology today allows these experts to bring out scanners and scan the scene, scan the vehicles, and then they can manipulate those scanned items to place in the animation in a very convincing way. Likewise, drone cameras are becoming very key in these investigations, sending them out over a scene to get a big view of an overhead view of various things. And again, reconstructing and using all the pieces to the investigation that we already talked about. And so we've already discussed that these type of trucking accidents require quick, immediate response with investigation and reconstruction. But in order to put all this together, like a lawyer like myself that handles these type of cases, you've got to have specialized knowledge. This webinar is not going to get you there. It may pique your interest, but it's not the knowledge you're going to need to be proficient in this. As Natalie mentioned, I teach at Florida Coastal as part of their LL.M program in the transportation law section on transportation and logistics. I teach the trucking regulation and litigation course. And in that course, obviously, it's a in-depth course that we talk about not only the federal regulations and the laws that apply to the trucking industry or to commercial vehicles in general, but we apply it to real-life situations. We talk about basic mathematical formulas that these type of engineers and experts would necessarily need to use when they're calculating various speeds and distances and putting all the pieces of a high-profile accident together. So it is a great program. I only teach part of it, but I've heard of great things on the other parts. And that's the type of knowledge that would assist you if you have interest in this area. So what type of jobs would potentially be available? To backtrack, in terms of the other thing we talk about in the course is going into more depth of how we would investigate these types of accidents. And so the types of jobs that are available in the transportation injury or in the area of trucking law in general would be working for investigating agencies. I mentioned earlier the National Transportation Safety Board, that's a federal agency. Also the Department of Transportation, which is a federal agency, but also the states also have similar departments. And other countries have similar systems in terms of oversight of the trucking industry. If you're not going to work in the government capacity, and there's also opportunities for in-house with trucking companies, whether it be a safety manager or related positions. A lot of times they will have in-house attorneys or in-house managers helping them keep their trucking safe, to avoid accidents like this, and overseeing to make sure that their company is complying with all of the applicable laws. The other thing would be logistics personnel, again, either within the trucking company or a third-party vendor. Companies like Walmart and other retailers have logistics personnel. They also are assessing and trying to prevent accidents such as this. When we're dealing with transportation or trucking accidents, they're not always on the roadway. A lot of times they're at the warehouse or they're from leaving the warehouse. And so it is a lot broader than just accidents on the interstate. In terms, I thought we had another slide here. Oh, here it is. The other job I wanted to mention, obviously, is an attorney, what I do, or my staff, support staff. That may be in the civil realm in terms of somebody suing about an accident. It could also be in the criminal realm. As I mentioned, Walmart's driver was criminally charged as a result of this. And again, a lot of in-house attorneys, whether it be for the trucking company, governmental agencies, or the like. A lot of support staff positions like paralegals are key in investigating these and assessing and working on trucking litigation claims. Insurance claim representatives. Some insurance companies really specialize in insuring trucking companies, and their claims representative have to deal with these kinds of accidents and investigation on a regular basis. And so if insurance is something that interests you and you're not in the law field at this time, that may be a way to get involved with this specialty area. There's also what we call independent insurance adjusters or field adjusters. These are people that are more local to where an accident is, that a trucking company, a business, an insurance company will reach out to them because they are in the locale, and they will go out and gather some of this evidence, such as looking for those surveillance cameras at the store, getting on the scene, talking to witnesses, and being the boots on the ground, so to speak, of gathering the information. Obviously, law enforcement positions, and there's a variety of them that would deal both with accidents like this, compiling the evidence, investigating it, and then turning it over to the prosecution if applicable. Even the media gets involved in this a lot in terms of coverage, understanding, trying to gather evidence themselves in order to present it in their publications, whether it be written or on television. So a lot of different jobs out there that touch on or are closely involved in the trucking law, and that's how these types of high-profile accidents, everybody I've mentioned from these high-profile accidents, from attorneys, paralegals, insurance representatives, field adjusters, law enforcement, media, all of them were involved in all of the cases I talked about, in addition to the federal agencies and so forth. So you can see that when an accident like this happens, a lot of people and a lot of jobs are called into play. And so I think it's a good career opportunity to gather the knowledge that may open some doors for people with interest.